Hello, BookTube. And well, we will be here shortly. Uh, and Aaron's just having a little internet hiccup. He's just had to restart everything and restart his modem, but it doesn't look like there's anybody here. Oh, there's one person here anyway. Oh, and it looks like he's here now.
Oh, sorry
There you
about
go. Yeah. And let's set the layout here a little better. Come on. Why is that not working?
that.
It says crop layout. Why is it cropped layout? Okay, well, no, that is it. It's just that it wasn't doing something strange on my end. Anyway, okay, so we're here to talk more about M.R. James and another three stories this week. These are the editions that I've been reading for quite a while. It's the Penguin two volumes,
And mine is the Wordsworth Mystery and Supernatural Tales of Mystery and Supernatural
but
series.
it doesn't actually have all of them though, does it? You were
No,
saying.
no, it doesn't have the experiment, which was one of the stories for this week, and it also doesn't have. If you just bear a second, it actually does. Interestingly, in the introduction, it does say which ones it doesn't have in there,
Yeah.
and those are the experiment, the malice of inanimate objects, and a vignette, which
Does it say why they didn't put it in, or
uh, no, just mentions it's not included. I don't know why, because I did own another collection before, which I remember had those in. So
right? Yeah, because I have one, an older one, a little hardcover, which is kind of nice. Uh, Arnold, I think, publication, but I don't think it was complete. And I also have a hardcover, one of those new Oxford World Classics hardcovers, and I can't put my fingers on it at the moment, but I was I was wondering if it had everything in too. I know it has a different introduction and a few
yeah,
different notes, but I don't know if it's got everything. Well, they purport to be everything, and they call it this an annotated edition, but some of the things aren't so much. It's like when they mention Strand magazine or something like that, they go and give a note for Strand magazine. I guess, yeah, you sort of need to do that for an annotated, but there's some other things. Well, that should be annotated. There should be something about that, and there isn't. And they could have left, if for space, they could have left the Strand magazine off. Most people reading M.R. James will know what the Strand magazine
yeah.
is.
In that in your version, they when it brings up sort of biblical references or historical references, do they annotate that, or is that stuff left out?
Yeah, they do. The biblical stuff they do, and people as well, like the to say whether this is a real person or a real place, things like that. They'll say, or this is fictional, for the most part. But they're not that detailed. That's the thing. It's not what I think of as an annotated edition. And I haven't actually read too many, but what I really liked as an annotated edition was Dracula, because it's got the text on the one side, and then on the um, in the margin, it's got a lot of annotations. Like there's sometimes as much text in the annotations as there are in the text itself, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's here. Glad to catch you live. Most interesting as always. Joe, listening to you guys. Yeah,
Thank you.
normally, this is not Brandy on a bad day. Brandy's going to see that and go, "How dare I?"
Now we should say Brandy will be joining us next Sunday and the Sunday after.
Yeah. But yeah, so we got three more stories. Number 13,
Yeah.
um, school story, and experiment. The experiment. I think. Yeah,
The experiment. Yeah.
yeah. And did you want to go? And I guess how we? I forget. To be honest, I forgot how we did it before. Did we do sort of like a non-spoiler to begin with, just about the story, and then go into spoilers, or straight
Um,
spoilers?
last time we just said there were going to be spoilers and went on with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the short stories, it's kind of hard not to. Yeah, he says
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with number 13, which is a story that I like, and it's been adapted. Was it Mark Gatiss that adapted it recently?
No.
Who was that?
Actually, I can have a look. I've got the page with the adaptations on up here. So just bear with me a second. I'll just get it because this was back in 2000 and let's see. Oh, come here. I have to go onto the actual page itself. So it's in 2007. So 2006. It was by. It says here it was by a called Justin Hooper.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I thought it was later than that, but yeah, it was a good adaptation. They changed. Well, I guess we'll get to that anyway. The changes and stuff that they did with it, but it's basically another story where the narrator, we assume is M.R. James, is telling a story that's been told to him of somebody. It's in Sweden, is it again?
It's in Denmark this time.
Denmark, okay, yeah. But he's doing historical research into archives, and he's staying in this inn. And for most of the time, he gets the choice, and he gets this nice big room with 3 windows, lots of sun coming in. And then at nighttime, there's 2 windows, and there's noises next door. And then he goes out, and there's the next room should be number 12 because, oh, heaven forbid you have a room number 13. But there's a door number 13 that disappears during the daytime. And it's an interesting story, like what's going on. And he finds some documents that are a bit strange of the early 4 founders, I guess, of the town, and there's stuff that he's still interested in, and the names and stuff like this. But it comes to a head where there's some sort of cat calling, singing from the number 13, and they have to sort of the landlord is freaked out about this too, so they break in and find under the floorboards some other documents relating to the person that the guest was looking into. But before that, they spend the night, the guy from number 12 and number 14, they spend the night in a room together in the same bed because they don't want to be left alone. And it's like, yeah, that today that would be looked at maybe a little differently. Alex is here, and Aubreyality. Oh, that's an interesting name.
Oh, I know. This is somebody I know. Okay. Short for known to everybody else as Brie.
Okay. I like the name, Aubreyality. That's cool. Yeah, so that's like it's a well-paced story because you don't know what's going on. I love the scene where he's standing at the window smoking a cigarette, and he's looking out at his shadow, and then there's like a third shadow, because there's the guy from number 12, and then there's somebody in between them. Yeah, creepy cat calling, singing.
Yeah. And it's well done with to explain for people, the shadows appearing on a wall on the opposite side of the road from the inn, and so you can see the shadow on there, particularly especially when the third shadow turns up. The light is different as well. It's a red flickering one as opposed to the normal sort of candle light that you would expect. And it's a sort of nice, so historical background, really nice as well. The fact that it takes place, that's what the sort of supernatural thing that Mr. Anderson, who's the character, is dealing with in number 13, is to do with a man called called Nicholas Franken, who was doing all sorts of interesting stuff with supposedly black magic, and it was getting the local bishop, who was a Roman Catholic, in trouble. And that's sort of nice background to it.
So yeah, it turns out that he probably sold his soul to the devil, and he's trapped in number 13 for the rest of eternity. But yeah, that's kind of, especially, it is a creepy scene where where they sort of finally they're banging on the door, and the two, like, the landlord's gone to get some help, and they're standing there, and the guy from number 12 standing with his back against the door, and the door opens up and a hand comes out to grab him. That's kind of creepy.
Yeah. And one thing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, just Alex is saying I can
Yeah.
imagine Emma James telling that chilly ghost tale around blazing fire
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. Yeah.
I think this probably would have been, this more than likely would have as well, because this is in the first collection, so it would have been told at the Chit Chat Club. But I would like just to reference the fact that I think this, you can see a similarity with Karen Albert's scrapbook, where it's again 2 academics looking for something of interest. They deal with the sort of, they come up against the supernatural creature, which in this case is not a ghost again, but something demonic. And
yeah, in a sense, the room could be a ghost room. Like, could you stretch it that far that the room is the ghost? But yeah, it's not really. It's like he's trapped there. Like, he's sold his soul to the devil, and he's trapped in this interdimensional room, in a sense.
Yeah, and also it ends in a similar way where after he's dealt with or escaped the threat or the danger, he's a lot less critical of superstition. I'm thinking that last line where he's talked about that famous academic who, as a student, wrote a contract with the devil, and Anderson sort of is very sort of critical of that at the end of the story in a way that I don't think he would have been at the start.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one, and like I say, the adaptation is pretty good, but they embellish it a lot more. They show him more with the documents at the church, I guess it is, and finding some hidden documents, and then there's a lot more stuff in the floorboards, as if there's other people that have disappeared in this room over time, which is, it's fair enough to do that, because the way that M.R. James set the story up and the way the room is sort of set up, that there could be other people that have been trapped there, over time, and it's an interdimensional. I'm just throwing in these words of interdimensional, but it's that kind of thing, I guess, or out of time sync, interdimensional, whatever you want.
Yeah, one thing, another thing, there's 2 changes they made to the story. One which I don't mind, which is in the adaptation, the story is set in England, not Denmark, which it fits because you can.
Right, yeah.
Because of course it fits quite well given the Reformation and that. So that's not a problem for me. But one thing that did slightly irritate me was the fact that Anderson in the original story seems perfectly genial and polite, whereas in the adaptation he's quite rude, quite grumpy as well, in a way that I don't quite understand why they did that. It just seems strange to me.
Yeah, I don't remember that aspect of it. Yeah, it's quite a while since I've seen it, but yeah, yeah, I didn't. Those are 2 things I didn't remember. I forgot about that it was set in England. Yeah, and he's saying interesting. Some ghost stories have today flagged up on my feed for me to listen to throughout the night as I don't sleep. Yeah.
Actually, one thing about M.R. James is, because all of his stuff is public domain, there's some really good audiobook versions of his stories on YouTube. There's Horror Babble is a good channel where they, well, not just for M.R. James, but for quite a lot of public domain horror. They've got a collection of M.R. James short stories done as audiobooks. There's also the versions that were done by the BBC with Christopher Lee and Robert Powell reading them are on YouTube, as are the older ones from Radio 4, where Michael Horden was reading them as well.
And Mark at Book Time with Elvis read one. Was it? Yeah. I'll put the link. I think was it A Warning to the Curious, or which one was that?
No, it was the Metzatint, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's a couple years ago he did it, and I think he did it. I'll see if I can track that down and put a link to it if anybody's interested. Derek Jacobi, did he narrate any?
He narrated. He's done some of them. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't heard. He'd be good doing those.
Yeah, I think that I think there's a multi-volume audiobook version of M.R. James's stories on Audible, and I think John are doing the narration.
Did Vincent Price do any? But probably not, because it's like, he's not M.R. James is not an American writer, so
yeah.
But I could see them putting him into service to do them as well.
Yeah.
He did all the Poe stuff. Yeah, he's saying, I don't mind ghost stories, but I'm nervous when it becomes horror. Well, that's the thing. Like, these are, like we were talking about that last week. Are they actually ghost stories? There's some that are, and there's some that aren't. One of the stories, the second one we're going to deal with, comes close to a ghost story, but I think it's a ghost story, but you're still not 100% sure,
Yeah, especially. Yeah. There are questions when you get to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, because all the way through, it's because it is a good story. Yeah, well, I guess is there anything more to say about this one, or
not much more now?
No. So the other one is actually, I'll say, because there is some information in here about. Let me just find it here again. So what did we just do? Number 13. I have to find which book, because it's got some information in this one that is sometimes kind of interesting. Yeah, number 13. So let's find number 13. Here it is. Yeah, it says was first published in Ghost Stories of an Antiquarian, reprinted in, I guess it's the Collected Ghost Stories, and preface to the Collected Ghost Story. M.R. James dates the story to 1899. That was the year his first visit to Scandinavia, as M.R. James McBride, and Will Stone traveled through Denmark and southern Sweden, but M.R. James did not visit Viborg, the setting of the tale, until 1900. So perhaps he was in error as to the date of composition. In this ingenious tale, the ghost, in quotation marks, is not that of a person, but yeah, it says it's the room. The ghost is the room. Yeah. So yeah, so there are some like that kind of information I find fun and interesting. The ghost runs right through you. I like that he made the room as an inanimate object one of the main characters. I think it'd be interesting to write a story from that perspective. What of the room? Yeah, I'm sure people have done it, because there's been ghost houses and that kind of thing, or possessed houses. Like, that's the thing. Are they actually? Is it the room that's a ghost, or is it the room that's possessed by something? Yeah, I guess you could do it in any way you want to, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got the school story, and this changes his narration style, doesn't it?
Yeah, because this is being told. It's in a conversation between two men, and one of the men is telling a story from his school days, whereas with most M.R. James stories, you've been told it one removed by a narrator retelling you something he was told. Whereas in this case, it's the first person, and so you've got two men who are sort of in a smoking room with what I imagine is a gentleman's club, and they are talking about sort of ghost stories from when they were in private school. And this one man mentioned, and they mentioned the fact that a lot of the ghost stories are, in many cases, just boys retelling printed ghost stories of their own. And the man who's the narrator sort of explains that, gives a story of what is probably a real ghost story, or a strange story from his time at school, where he was in a Latin lesson with a boy called MacLeod. This boy called MacLeod whilst sort of daydreaming, was what sort of jolted awake by the narrator, and then the narrator, and then MacLeod wrote down a lot of Latin, which is the Latin teacher looked at and was very shocked by, and then a couple of lessons later, the same thing happens, and then the teacher, and I can't remember, it's a couple of nights later, the boys wake up and see somebody outside the teacher's room in the building opposite to where they're sleeping, and the teacher goes missing. And then the person telling the story learns that in Ireland a few years later, a few years earlier before he's telling that story, a few years earlier before he's telling the story in the Gentleman's Club, that two bodies turned up in a well, and among the possessions was this coin, this Byzantine coin with the letters GWS. And early in the story, this was in the possession of the Latin teacher who went missing. And so you got the suggestion of this something's good after this Latin teacher that was hunting him, and it's really well done because you never entirely know what's going on.
Yeah, because there's even hints of the fact that, like, because when there's a Latin phrase that's written and he gets scared, of the Latin teacher gets scared of it, and then you find out that he's found the two bodies, one is holding on to the other tightly, so it's like it's like there's suggestions of weirdness that has happened there. Did he kill that student? Was that another student that he had killed previously? And the ghost is coming back together. It's not mentioned, but it's hinted at as a possibility. Because why is this creature or this ghost after him?
And you can sort of, I think you can see why somebody like H.P. Lovecraft and a lot of the weird fiction authors, particularly in the 2030s, held M.R. James in high regard, because this is really good weird fiction, which was before weird fiction really came to its own.
Yeah.
In that sense of it, something being after him, whilst never being told exactly what it is. It's
I like the way it starts out too, because he's going, what he talks about. He says, two men in a smoking room, or we're talking of their private school days. At our school, said A, we held a ghost. We had a ghost footmark on the staircase, and then it says that from something about it was a square toe, if I remember right. The staircase was a stone one. I never heard any story about the thing. That seems odd when you come to think of it. Why didn't somebody invent one, I wonder? And then I like the next part here where he says, you never can tell with little boys. They have a mythology of their own. There's a subject for you, by the way. And then he quotes the folklore of private schools.
Yeah.
And that's like that. It's like, that would be cool, And that's the thing. Like, he throws, these are sort of throwaway things in the story. And sometimes they're really good things,
Yeah, and there's actually there's a nice sort of throwaway thing in there about Berkeley Square, because
exactly. Next thing,
there's for those who don't know, there's a legend about 50 Berkeley Square that nobody can stay in it because they will either die or go mad. And this story, it seems to have come out in the 1860s or 1870s. It's sort of a sort of legend that's gone on. The legend is that I think it's in the early 1870s, a bloke stayed there and went missing the next morning. When they opened the door, he wasn't there.
Yeah, and it's and that's the thing with him. He puts things in that are real at times, and this is the thing. It's that's why it's neat to have the notes, because some things are real, and then you think it's real, but it's not real. And then there's things that are real that you go, no, that can't be real, and it's real. Like, he does play with that at times. That's the thing. Let's catch up on some comments here first. Alex, there's a haiku I wrote. White velvet wades near. I freeze in fear and terror. I'm a ghost to it. And Yanni says, nice
Oh,
overview,
thank you.
Karen. And then nice haiku. Mr. James shows but doesn't tell.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You've both great voices, or nice, really. Oh God, I can't even bloody read, so I don't have a good voice. You both got really nice voices to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
And Alex says thanks. Yeah, no, the Berkeley Square one. I'm sure there's. I've come across a few short stories that I think that have been written from that, like that are using the Berkeley Square one as the basis, and I'm sure there's a film too, but I
I,
can't be sure.
I think there might be. I think Ambrose Bierce might have written a short story about men stopping in a house overnight as a bet, and then they disappear the next morning. And I see that must. I think that was written in the 1890s, so that may well have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just, I've just saw some. If you just bear with me a second, I've just saw something out. So.
Just going to go to the notes here again. This is what it says about the school story here, if I can find it. Sometimes the notes are hard to find in these penguins. Oh, I'm back at the beginning, so it's not there. Oh, there it is. There's not much actually. It was published in MGSA. What's MGSA again? More ghost stories from an antiquarian. Tale was written for the King's College Choir School.
Oh, right.
Mr. James's friend A.C. Benson. Yeah, that's the one that we were trying to figure out last time. He's the one that's the dean or whatever it was called. Records in his diary that he heard Mr. James read the story on 28th of December, 1906. In the preface to Collected Ghost Stories, Mr. James identifies the setting as Temple Grove, the preparatory school he attended in 1873 and 76. And the good thing of this too, they're always referring other things to read. And there's this Rosemary Pardo, and it's in a journal called Ghosts and Scholars, which is a really cool journal, but pricey to get individual copies. Well, not super pricey, but like 20 or 30 pounds for for an old journal. And this one's called "I've Seen It: A School Story and the House in Berkeley Square." And that's from 1999. And then yeah, he goes through and he doesn't translate all the Latin, but he'll say bad Latin for "we remember my father," and then they'll do a few things like that. But that doesn't really add a whole lot to the story. Here we go. The references to 50 Berkeley Square, a celebrated haunted house in London, and the subject of several ghost stories, notably Rhoda Broughton's "The Truth and the Whole Tale" and "Nothing But the Truth," Tales for Christmas Eve, 1873. See Rosemary Pardo's article cited in further reading. And then, yeah, they do a whole thing of the Strand magazine, which I'm going, and there's only 4 notes for this story.
All right.
And this is the case where I go, he could have put a lot more notes, a lot more detail with this, because like I have a feeling that the well bit of the bodies found in there is based on something too. And it's like faded in my memory somewhere that I think there's something that he probably heard or something like that and just incorporated it into the story like he usually does.
Yeah, I do wonder if that he comes back. I wonder if that's where he gets the idea for the wailing well later on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because I think he does reuse some of his ideas But yeah, no, it's just this was the first one that we did that was sort of the uh, I guess outside of the not no or the different narrative style. That's the thing,
Yeah.
yeah. Because all the time it's like a warning from the curious. I think is the most complicated narration of it, and but I really like it the way he did it. And this one, but I find his first person stories that the narrator is the person that is experienced it. They're not as good.
Yeah.
They're not as this is good, but it's not as good. And I
Yeah.
think it's because it's the aspect of I kind of like for certain part, like it gets kind of tiring. Oh, like my cousin's girlfriend, brother, saw a ghost or something like that, and they tell the story. It's kind of a cliche, but it can work. And I like that kind of story better because it's always second, third, fourth hand. And like I said that last time, it makes more sense to me of a ghost story to be second or third or fourth hand than first hand.
Yeah.
It could be just a preference for me. I don't know. Um, okay. I've had that happen too. Wells, yeah, horrifying,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wells and privies are cool things
Yeah.
because they're both holes in the ground that things were thrown in, and many times bodies and just garbage.
Yeah.
So there's always something to be found in wells and privies. Oh, there was something that I wanted to say about number 13 for non-English and non-European readers. And this confused me until because he's talking about, he's in going back to number 13, he had a choice of a couple of rooms on the second floor and the first floor, I think, or the top floor and the first floor.
Yeah.
That confuses North American viewers because the first floor is not the ground floor that they're talking about here. It's what North America would call second floor.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you ever would think of because when somebody says first floor, you think of whatever it is. And yeah, it's I always found that confusing when well, not confusing, but it was like all of a sudden when I learned it, it was like a light bulb went off, and it was like, okay, that makes so much sense. That's why they're talking about this, and you're just going because when you get down to the details, when somebody's talking about the second floor and they're going up like 2 flights of stairs, and you're going, what? So anyway, so that's sorry, that was just an aside. Reality say, well, if it's told first, said, yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, I never even thought of it. That's a subconscious thing that that yeah, the person has survived. But when it's third or fourth hand, you don't know. You don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. Do they survive? Yeah, I never even thought of that, but it's there subconsciously. So yeah, then the third one here,
Yes.
the experiment.
Yeah. It's. We should say that this one was published, interestingly, in 1931. It's actually called a New Year's Eve story, so it's actually not a Christmas story. Unusual for M.R. James. It was published on New Year's Day, 1931, in the Morning Post, which was a very long-running newspaper. It eventually became part of the Daily Telegraph in 1937, but it's a newspaper that published quite a number of people, including quite a few poems by Rudyard Kipling throughout from the 1890s up until the 1930s. It was very much on the sort of conservative side of things politically. It probably explains why M.R. James wrote for it. And I think on this one, me and you agree, Sean, that this is not his best story by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but people seem to like it doesn't. You don't know what's happened. You don't know what has happened and what is happening half the time. So that the people who like that kind of thing enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah. I say when I'm rereading it this time, I did have to reread it twice to try and get a good handle on it. And that's quite normal for me with this particular story, because it starts off normal enough because it starts on a December night where it's set out in the English countryside. I would imagine the 18th century, and you've got a local clergyman who's writing down the births, deaths, and marriages in a book, and then he's informed that the local squire's died, and the local squire's left sort of certain particular wants for his burial. So he wants to be buried in the churchyard, not in the family mausoleum. He wants to be buried without a coffin, and then so that takes place. And it's very hurried, and then it switches. The story switches to the squire's wife, or to say widow now, and his stepson, and then searching for gold. And then at this point, it becomes very confusing for me because the stepson goes off and does something after finding out the late squire was involving himself in some kind of occult business. They then acquire the gold, and then, but Joseph, who's the stepson, seemingly being haunted by something, and then he and his mother flee to Holland. Well, they try to, but they get to the docks and they discover that somebody else is following them. And then he switches again to somebody else, a sort of narrator of some sort, when I read it, talking about mother and son being hung, and then a description of what the recipe book, as it's called, that the squire was using. If that sounds confusing to me describing it, that's how it comes across, quite jumbled as a story.
Yeah, well, I think the sort of idea is that this guy, they think he might have squirreled away a bunch of money somewhere, and the wife poisons him. And then the son is sent out to look at him, or to look, and it's clear that there's poison or something when they look at his face. And then there's like the recipe thing, and it is that if you use a cloth of some sort that I guess has been laid over the face of the deceased and then sleep on the cloth, you find out the secret that the dead person had. But it's so convoluted how that's told. It's like fragmentary, because you have to sort of guess at some of these things, and I think that's what's happened. But yeah, it's fragmentary, because you know that this guy died, and he makes M.R. James makes, I think, a rookie mistake in something where alarm bells go off, because it's like they want to bury the person quickly, and then it says, oh well, at that time there was no legal thing for this, and right away that there's something illegal going on here. It's too blatant. It's like, why would you say that? It's like a rookie mistake, almost like you're just pointing the finger and saying, look at this. And yeah, it's not great, but the book that he's got, like it's a whole interesting thing, because this guy seems to have this huge correspondence they talk about, that he's always writing, and it's with somebody else. I forget the person's name.
He's in Gloucestershire, the man he's writing to, as in Gerber.
Yeah, and it looks like they're doing research, in a cult of some sort, and looking at a lot of books, And in this one case, they got a book from what they say Moore collection, but it's John Moore, who was a bishop of Norwich and then a bishop of Ely in the late 1600s and early 1700s.
Yeah.
And it says upon his death, this is the note, his immense library of 29,000 books. Okay, that's like having a million books now, I would think, and 1,800 manuscripts were sold to King George I, who then donated them to Cambridge. And M.R. James would have had his fingers in these books.
Yeah.
He would have been looking at the manuscripts. So you kind of wonder, what did he see in here that prompted him to add this to the story? Was there a recipe book? And I don't think it's a recipe book of how to make cookies and stuff. It's a recipe book for the occult.
I do wonder if this is M.R. James recycling again, because it does remind me of Lost Hearts.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, or like it almost seems like to me, it seems so much like he started writing a story, and he there's a few notes for this, and there's a few different places, like he had these things. Well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and then he was asked for a story, and he just cobbled it together. That's what it feels like to me, that he's cobbled it together in his old age. In a sense, well, he's not that old, but it's his last sort of writings. And that's what it feels like. And I don't know, like there hasn't been, well, there is somebody that has done a study, a PhD on his ghost stories. Jane Manley Piddock, who edited the letters of M.R. James. And it would be nice to, like, she might know like the answers to these things. But yeah, there's been other people like this, Rosemary Pardue, and there's a few others that have delved into these things, but it's not easy to find this information. That's the thing.
I mean, in last week I did mention the fact that I felt the Canon Albrecht scrapbook lacked polish, but it was still a good story. This one isn't so much lacking polish as it's lacking actual coherence in a way that no other M.R. James story has.
Yeah, like I really think he's like he jotted stuff down at various times for a story, but never really completed it, and then cobbled it together for the publication. Like that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And even like the Canon Albrecht's thing, it is like, it's missing a little bit of polish, but at least it's coherent.
And in M.R. James did actually write an essay about cool stories I tried to write, and that's, I'm not sure if that's in your collection, but I know I got it in mine.
I think,
and he just gave you sort of these stories he attempted to write, but he couldn't finish one thing or another. I do wonder if he hadn't been asked to write, if he hadn't been asked to put that in, have a story, if he hadn't been asked a story by the Morning Post, would the experiment have ended up as a description in stories I tried to write?
Yeah, it's here. It's really short. It's less than 3 pages long in here. It just starts out, I have neither much experience nor much perseverance in the writing of stories. I'm thinking exclusively of ghost stories. But that's the thing. He calls all his stuff ghost stories, if I remember right. Like he's got an essay here on how to write a ghost story, and people do call them ghost stories. And this is the thing, like there are, like this one, it's not a ghost, and it's not even like doesn't even seem like there's a creature of some sort. It's there is the occult connection to it, but they didn't get the answer
No.
from this cloth, and you don't really know what happened. All it is like, yeah, somebody, like you say, somebody is looking into some records, and around that time, a mother and a son were hanged for killing the father, the husband, and you like the narrator is assuming they're connected,
Yeah.
because it's like, I guess. No, I guess there is a supernatural creature there, because when they're at the docks and stuff, they
Yeah.
think they think it's him, the dead
Yeah.
guy that's there.
And whatever the thing is, it talks to the boatman or the
Yeah,
person on the docks. It talks to them. It says, "I'll come back. I'll be coming with them," or something like that.
yeah. So I guess potentially that's a ghost, and potentially the thing that killed the Latin instructor in the school story was a ghost of another student, possibly, but he doesn't become a ghost,
No,
you
I
know.
mean, the case of a school story that could be more likely a revenant than a ghost. Something along
Exactly.
those
Yeah,
lines.
yeah, yeah. So it's unclear, but you can at least guess that it's a potential ghost.
Yeah,
But some of the others, like Canon Albert's um, scrapbook, that's not a ghost.
no,
Like, it's clearly not a ghost. And what was the other ones that we read?
one to the curious.
Yeah, that's
That there's a question there whether that's Ager's ghost or if it's something else.
yeah. And then what was the third one again?
That
Count Magnus.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not a ghost. Like,
no.
that's pretty clear. That's not a ghost.
There might be Count Magnus's ghost is tagging along, but the thing that's doing all the dirty work is definitely something else. It's something demonic in hairy.
Yeah. And number 13. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but the thing is, you always, it's yeah, it's kind of it's something that I find a little strange, that there's still, that it's just beaten in that they're ghost stories.
Yeah,
And I guess the whole thing is, how do you define a ghost story? What is a ghost? See, that is a really good question. What is a ghost?
yeah,
You know, um, to me, I like the traditional aspect, that it's the soul or the spirit of the person who's died and hasn't disappeared, and they're lingering around, and they can do. But you see, this is the thing, then they can wind up doing things, and there's a wide range of things that they can do, that they can possibly, be poltergeists, they can move things, they can materialize and be seen, or sometimes they're not seen, and they're just there, and don't do anything.
yeah,
Like, that's the thing. It is really weird. Or that they possess other people. They sometimes possess other people. And but then, does that mean all possessions are ghost stories?
yeah.
I don't think so, because
No,
that's yeah, it's a difficult thing, but it's an interesting thing. Yeah, he said, I'm definitely gonna look up M.R. James, as I never
no,
heard of this writer author. I only know Jane Austen and Shakespeare well. Uh, um, yeah, well, does Jane Austen have ghosts in her stories? I don't remember.
no. Shakespeare does obviously, but
Yeah, yeah, no, demons aren't ghosts. Yeah, that's the thing. But it's like, what is a demon then? I guess is as well.
yeah,
What is a demon? And it's like, could you have a ghost of a demon?
yeah. Or
It's always
can a human spirit become a demon?
that has been,
Yeah,
yeah, that has been done in horror. I know that. I don't know if there's any sort of standard process to do a recipe to do that. I like the idea that it's a recipe book. I love how he does that. But yeah, it's Satan's
Yeah.
minions. But how do you become Satan's minions? Is it a different creature that's created somewhere else, or is it? Yeah, it's all these things that it makes it interesting, but it
Yeah.
makes it too complicated at times too, and that's why I like as much as I like Mr. James. I like picking up this, the Oxford Book of Ghost Stories, or the Oxford Victorian Book of Ghost Stories. It's like those are the ones, and there are, I think, some Mr. James in there. I have to look again. I don't know where my copies are, but I have to see if they're if the Mr. James ones are actually ghost stories. Um, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Northanger Abbey alludes to supernatural gothic, arguably ghost. Yeah, um, and I think they have to be fallen angels.
I've
Yeah,
always I've always been led to believe that. Yeah, but it does make you wonder if if a human could become a demon after they died, or their spirit could become one. Makes you
that
wonder.
has been done, at least in TV horror stuff that I've seen. That people have become demons, and then the demons have come back as human. Uh, Ghostly imaginings in Northanger Abbey. Yeah. So when did the number 13 become fear? Yeah.
There's a sort of there's actually there's a popular idea that has to do with the execution of the Knights Templar, because they were executed on the 13th of, I can't remember what date it was, what month it was, sorry, in 1307, I think. Is that no 1314? And as they were being burnt alive, the Grand Master of the Templar Order, they sort of damned the French king unto his several generations, and so that is that, and that from that it's meant to be that Friday the 13th and number 13 is unlucky or dangerous. But there's also a number of other reasons, other sort of ideas where it came from. But that's one that's most commonly mentioned, that it came from the destruction of the Templars in the between 1307 and 1314.
I was just looking to see if they in the notes here they don't mention anything at all
No.
about the number 13, which again, this is the kind of thing that should be in a notated
Yeah.
edition, in my opinion.
Well, there's an interesting thing, which is, I think it's in, I can't remember if it's in one of the countries in Asia, it might be Japan, where 13 is fine, but 7, I think it is unlucky. And so they don't have they won't have, for example, a 7th floor. They'll have a 6th floor and then a 8th floor.
It's still 7th floor.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like I've had an argument. Like in Canada, they don't have 13th. It's still 13th floor.
Yeah.
12. It's not as if
Yeah.
there's a space between there. It's still 13.
Yeah.
There's one really good thing, and it must be in the school story that I say I want to bring this word back into usage, at least the meaning of it in the story. I think it's in the school story. I'm just trying to find that now. Come on. It's always hard to find the notes of these things unless I have. And of course, I'm not finding it. Which one is this? It's got to be in this volume. The experiment. I think it's with this one. No, it's not. It must be in the other one. And I'll get to the. Sorry, I want to read the. There it is. So yeah, it's in this one. It's a word that you never would think. Here it is. Here. No, it's got to be then in number 13. Oh God, I'm losing my memory here. There, this has got to be it. If it's not here, then I don't know where it is. I'll try to remember it. So where in what story does he use the word maggot? And it's like an obsessive, and he's using it as an obsessive um, interest in something. It's in one of the stories that I just read this afternoon, and I can't find the reference, but it's I just love that maggot. Yeah, that's it. Like yeah, maggot. It's like an obsession with something.
Yeah, I'd imagine it would have been number 13 if it was any of the stories.
Hamlet's murdered. Yeah, father returns to the post. Not according to the Catholic Church.
Well, that's to do with people becoming demons.
Yeah. I was born on the 15th. Correct, Aaron. You have some interesting knowledge.
Oh, thank you.
Things. All right. That was impressive. 13 plus 12 makes my birth date. Maggot. Because maggots devour. Because I remember reading that, and I thought it was in one of the other stories, but I can't find the reference. Oh, it bugs me when I do this, and I should have written it down. I should have wrote it down. So okay, it's not number 13. It's not in school story, so it's got to be an experiment. So there was two things. If it's in the experiment, then there was two things in there that I liked: the reference to the John Moore's library, and maggot. Why would that have the maggot in there? And I know there's a dead body, but that wasn't it. Anyway, I'm wasting airtime here, dead air, which you're never supposed to. The experiment. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. In this sense, now archaic, maggot means a whimsical or perverse fancy, a crochet, the OED. I want to bring that back. I want to say I got a maggot. That's my maggot. Okay, here we go. In the apocryphal books of Tobit and Enoch, Raphael is one of the 7 archangels who stand in the presence of God. Nares, Latin for nostrils, is evidently a creature of M.R. James' invention. So yeah, there's a creature that is kind of mentioned in the experiment. Yeah, but it's so vague. Let's get back to the comments here. Alex saying, if you think of the 20th century, the Titanic sank in 1912, the Great War in 1940.
Yeah.
My dog's nickname is Demon. 1913 Walrus pick and mix. Was Friday the 13th a couple of days ago?
Yeah.
Okay. 1913 is a great year for a pick and mix. And a team also It's also the lead up to the First World War.
Yeah.
So that was an unlucky year. Is that true about the pick and mix? Did they actually start that? The Woolworths?
Have a look. I'll Google it and see what comes up.
It was in Cornwall, alternate universe. It's not, yeah, because it's Cornwall that's in one of the Sherlock Holmes stories. It's about the guy who sort of poisons his relative's or no, the woman he was going to marry, or he wants to marry's family with some
Oh yeah,
stuff that he got. So because Holmes is ill, and they go there, and it's sort of for him to sort of study the stones and stuff like this, the archaeological stuff, and then he gets caught up in this the deaths.
and I remember that story from when it was adapted, but when it was done in the Jeremy Brett series.
Yes,
I
yeah,
remember Holmes is very sort of gets angry because he doesn't actually regard. He thinks that the killings he doesn't think they're unjustified. He says, "Why should I condemn the man?"
yeah.
And
That's one of the few times it's saying I'm not a jury. It's like, it's like, he's figured out the crime. It's not up to him. If they're too stupid, the police are too stupid to not figure it out, then fine. Then the guy disappears in deepest Africa.
Yeah.
Different
Oh,
Swedish.
it's to Brie.
Sorry.
No, he's responding. Alex is responding to Brie at the idea of pick and mix.
No, I'm just joking.
Oh.
I'm an American, so I don't know these things.
I'm gonna say it seems odd to me that Woolworths, which is American to begin with, did that in the UK, pick and mix, but it didn't go anywhere else, as far as I can tell.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they probably had something else. I'm sure there was something in the States that you go in and you just had so much weight or a package that you just mixed up stuff, and they called it you're picking and then you're mixing. And in the States they'll call it something else. I'm sure they had something for it, or maybe it just was never named. It was just like buy a selection, whatever you can fit into this thing, into this container.
If you're mentioning that, that just reminded me, in the Will Hay film Ask a Policeman, and you've got Albert with his girlfriend in the shop, and they're weighing the sweets out. The girlfriend's got a hand on the weight, so he's pouring it.
I don't remember.
Yeah. He pulls a sweet and he doesn't notice, and then he hands her this huge bag of sweets, and he's thinking, "This is not right."
Yeah, Will Hay is an interesting phenomenon in British film in the 30s.
Yeah,
the ones that were like, it wasn't him so much, I guess. It was his two sidekicks that were just very British, I would say.
yeah. And interestingly, Oh, Mr. Porter inspired Dad's Army.
Is what? Sorry?
It inspired Dad's Army.
Oh, did it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you've got the trio there of the incompetent leader, Captain Mainwaring, the doddering old fool, which is Corporal Jones, and then the young idiot, which is Pike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I never connected that. And then they did another one. What? Goose Steps Out or something? I think.
Oh yeah, Goose Stepping something or other. Yeah, where Will Hay is sent undercover into Germany.
Yeah.
He's teaching a class of students on how British social attitudes and mores, and he gets them to turn around to a portrait of Hitler and go, "This is a very respectful British salute."
Yeah.
And you've got this scene of all these the Hitler Youth boys doing that towards a portrait of Hitler.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. It's better than what is it? Old Mother Riley ones.
Oh yeah, Lucas.
Jesus Christ, those like even Bela Lugosi can't save the very last one.
Yeah.
People are probably have no idea what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Let's see. Bulk food candy sounds so snappy. Yeah, that's the thing. There probably was a name for it, or not. That's the thing. Will Hay. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
That show is so funny. I think Dad's Army.
Yeah.
John LeMessurier. Yeah, he was born a veteran. And same with the guy who, what's his name, that wrote The Worst Journey in the World or whatever. That was with Scott.
Oh, another one you mean? Yeah. John. Sorry, Mark Gatiss played him in a BBC film. I can't remember the name of the man.
Didn't see
I know you mean
that. Do you know the film Springtime? Oh, geez, yeah. Oh, the other one, Benny. Was it not? It was a Benny Hill, but not Benny Hill. Yeah. Ronnie Barker lived a little while in Bedford as well. I'm pretty sure it's Ronnie Barker. Yeah, well, that's the yeah. He was reprising a vampire in the Mother Riley. Old. What's it called? Oh, is it Old?
It's old Mother Riley versus the vampire. I think it's called.
Yeah, it's the last. It's the last film, and it's basically the. What would you say? The mother of Mrs. Brown Boys?
Yes. Yeah.
Ronnie Barker was there. Yeah. Oh, just thinking of that stuff. It was like there's so many bad things, and it took me a while, but I after a while, I did like what's the banjo? Not the banjo. When I'm washing windows.
George Formby.
Yeah. It took me a while. I kind of like his stuff. The one that I didn't like is later is the short guy.
Oh, Norman Wisdom.
Oh, I can't stand him. Can't stand him. But I did like the guy with the glasses who did a very good version talking about Dad's Army, Godfrey's play, The Ghost Train. I can't remember his name with glasses, skinny guy. What's his name? The Second World War period. Oh, what's his name? I can't think of his name.
No, I can't.
Phantom Brass.
Yes. Interestingly, do you know who in that sketch who plays the Phantom Raspberry Blower?
Off the top of my head, it's well since no, I don't know.
It's Spike Milligan. Spike Milligan's the one who's covered up.
I can't think of the name of that actor that I liked his stuff. Let's
have a look.
He did a version of the Ghost Train that Godfrey wrote.
Just have a look now. It's Ghost Train.
Oh, my memory is horrible.
Oh, Arthur Askey.
Yeah, Arthur Askey. That's it. Yeah, I like Arthur Askey. But yeah, there was so many things like that. There was a really good. I think I'm not sure if it's Paul Merton might have narrated something about Northern comics of the time. Oh God, some of those were horrible. Yeah, you can see.
Oh, thank you.
In the background a little bit there.
Yeah, he looks cute, but he's a complete menace. I'm surprised he's sitting still at the moment.
Well, I guess we could continue talking about 1930s sort of bad comedy films, but I guess we're finished for this week with the MR James. What's next week's?
Right, just a second. I'll just get the let's get the names up. So I should say that the this week coming is called A Pleasing Terror, and so the 3 stories that were chosen by me, Sean, and Brandy were chosen because we like them. The first one is An Evening's Entertainment, and the second one is Casting the Runes, and the third one is Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. And
that's your favorite one, or is that?
Oh no, my one was An Evening's Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
So I think you chose Casting of the Runes, and I think Brandy chose Oh Whistle.
That's not a very good one.
When did you say it? Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, with an interesting thing is that both Casting of the Runes and Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad have been both adapted twice. Because there was a Casting of the Runes, and then there was one done for ITV by Lawrence Gordon Clark, who did the 70s adaptations of MR James for the BBC. In about 1978, he couldn't get the BBC to do the story, so he went over to ITV and they did it. I think it's not just a single episode either. It's about 3 or 4 episodes long.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
I still haven't watched most of those that I have, the BBC ones, and I do have to get around to it at some point, because I don't know if they ever came to Canada. That's the thing. I just don't remember ever seeing them on TV at all. But I had seen the Casting the Runes, the film before, because it was a film, and we'll talk about it at the time, because they did something really kind of stupid with it. That's the thing. But it was enjoyable. Alex was talking about the 2 Ronnies, 4 handles. Have you ever seen, if everybody wants, is the updated version?
Yeah,
with the little Ronnie, with Ronnie Corbett and
Harry Enfield.
Harry Enfield, and they did an amazing job of updating that to 21st century or late 20th century technology. Let's just put it that way. No, it was fun. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And so we'll be back, and hopefully Brandy will be with us on next week, and I guess it's on your channel, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then at least I don't have to remember it. I completely forgot, or didn't even realize that I was supposed to be doing it. So that was good. Oh, the mastermind right. Yeah, answer the next, what is it? The next question first. Oh, that's just brilliant. That's just brilliant.
Well, they did there's the very famous one with it's the 2 Ronnies and John Cleese about the class system. Do you remember that one from the Frost Report, where John Cleese upper class?
Oh yes, yeah.
Well, they did an updated version of that in 2000, where it's, instead of being classes, it's different eras. So you've got Stephen Fry as New Labour man, you've got Ronnie Barker as Renaissance man, and then you've got Ronnie Corbett as medieval man.
I was going to mention Morecambe. I do not like Morecambe and Wise. Like that. I know it's like an institution here, but I'd seen a little bit of it in Canada and didn't really care for them. And then I saw it here, and I tried to watch a bunch of the stuff, and I just couldn't. They don't work for me for some reason. The 2 Ronnies work for me because there's so much. It's just interesting wordplay, There's one I never seen, and I guess it must be for the 2 Ronnies, and it's a Christmas style one where Ronnie Barker's like the butcher, and he plops down a turkey, and he says, "Oh, so Norfolk turkey," and the woman say, "No, it's not." Well, how can you tell? And then she's talking about the parson's nose, the size of it, and stuff like that. And she goes, "Well, you're not round here. Where are you from? And then he sort of pulls back, he drops his trousers and says, you tell me. That was because I'd never seen that one before. Yeah, no, but we'll leave now. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love the two Ronnies. Bye, everybody.
Bye.